The morning sun cast long shadows across the mining colony of New Busan as Hyunwoo Park walked through the dusty streets. He stopped at the central communications tower and looked up at the silent dish pointing toward the stars. For 3 months. Now, no messages had come from Earth. The last transmission had been brief and cold. Budget cuts require reduction of outer rim support. Maintain independence protocols. Hyunwoo was the colony administrator, a job that had seemed simple when they first arrived on Kepler 442c 5 years ago. Back then, regular supply ships came every 6 months. Earth Command sent updates and new colonists. The mining operation pulled valuable metals from the planet's crust, and everyone believed they were building something important for humanity's future. Now, at 35 years old, Hyunwoo felt much older. He carried the weight of 12,000 lives on his shoulders. Families had come here to build new lives. Children had been born under the orange light of this distant star. They had called this place home, believing Earth would always be there, to help them. The communications center hummed with quiet activity. Yoonji Nam sat at her station, still trying to reach other human colonies. She had been a military communications officer before becoming a school teacher here. Her knowledge of quantum radio systems made her their best hope of contact with the outside galaxy. Anything today? Hyunwoo asked. Yoonji shook her head. The relay stations in the inner systems are not responding. Either they are broken or... She did not finish the sentence. They both knew what it might mean. Keep trying, Hyunwoo said. Someone out there must be listening. He left the communications center and walked toward the main mining complex. The colony stretched across a valley between 2 mountain ranges. Prefabricated buildings housed families in neat rows. The school, medical center, and community buildings sat in the center. Everything looked peaceful and normal, but Hyunwoo knew the truth. Their food supplies would last another 8 months. The mining equipment needed parts they could not make. Without support from Earth, New Busan would slowly die. At the mining complex, So Young Kim was working on a broken ore processor. Grease covered her hands and face as she wrestled with a stubborn bolt. She was the chief engineer, a woman who could fix anything with spare parts and determination. At 28, she had already saved the colony from dozens of equipment failures. How bad is it? Hyunwoo asked. So Young wiped her hands on a rag. This machine should have been replaced 2 years ago. I can keep it running for maybe 6 more months, but we need new parts. The quantum drives on the ore haulers are also failing. Without them, we cannot move the mined materials to the processing center. Can you make the parts we need? Some of them, yes, but the complex electronics and drive components? No, we do not have the facilities. Hyunwoo nodded. It was the same answer everywhere. The colony had been designed to depend on regular supply runs from Earth. Now they were learning to survive on their own, but it was a slow and difficult process. He walked to the security office next. Tae-min Lee sat behind his desk, reviewing patrol reports. As head of security, Tae-min commanded 30 officers who kept order in the colony. They carried basic weapons and had been trained to handle minor disputes and accidents. None of them were real soldiers. Any problems? Hyunwoo asked. The usual small things. A fight between miners over work shifts. Some teenagers caught stealing food from the supply depot. But people are getting worried, Hyunwoo. They know something is wrong. When will the next supply ship arrive? Hyunwoo had been avoiding this question for weeks. I do not know. Tae-min studied his face. You think they are not coming, do you? I think we need to prepare to take care of ourselves. For how long? maybe forever. The words hung in the air between them. Taemin had served in the Earth Defense Force before coming to New Busan with his wife and young daughter. He understood what it meant to be cut off from support. "What do you want me to do?" Taemin asked. "Start training volunteers, basic defense, and emergency procedures. Do not scare people, but make sure we are ready for anything." That evening, Hyunwoo attended a town meeting in the community center. Families filled the large room, their faces showing worry and hope. These were good people who had risked everything to build a new life among the stars. They deserved the truth. Dr. Ji-hoon Choi, the colony's xenobiologist, sat in the front row with his wife and two young sons. He studied the alien life forms on the planet and had become an expert on the local ecosystem. His research had been sent to Earth universities, but now he wondered if anyone was reading his reports. Min Ho-yoon, the head medic, sat with his medical team. They had treated everything from mining accidents to alien allergies. The medical supplies were running low, and Minho had started growing medicinal plants in the greenhouses. Da-yoon Song managed the hydroponics farms that fed the colony. Her greenhouses produced most of their fresh food, and she had been working to expand production. Without supply ships, the colony would need to grow everything locally. Hyunwoo stood at the front of the room and looked at all the faces watching him. "I want to be honest with everyone. We have not received any communications from Earth for 3 months. The last message told us to operate independently." Worried murmurs filled the room. A woman in the back called out, "When will the next, supply ship come?" "I do not know," Hyunwoo replied. "We must prepare to survive on our own for an extended period. This does not mean Earth has abandoned us. It means we need to become truly self-sufficient." A man near the front stood up. "Are you saying we are trapped here?" "I am saying we need to work together to build a future here, with or without help from Earth. We have everything we need to survive. We have good people, good land, and the knowledge to make this work." The meeting continued for 2 hours. People asked hard questions and received honest answers. By the end, the room felt different. The fear was still there, but so was determination. These colonists had already proven they could build something from nothing. Now they would have to prove they could keep it alive. As people filed out of the community center, Hyunwoo felt a hand on his shoulder. Yoonji stood beside him, her face serious. "I will keep sending messages," she said. "Even if no one answers, I will keep trying. Someone out there needs to know we exist." "Thank you," Hyunwoo replied. "Do not give up hope." But as he walked home through the quiet streets of New Busan, Hyunwoo wondered if hope was enough. The colony felt very small under the vast alien sky, and Earth seemed impossibly far away. Dr. Ji-hoon Choi was studying soil samples in his laboratory when the alarms began to sound. The high-pitched wailing echoed across the colony, a sound that had never been heard before. Ji-hoon dropped his microscope slides and ran toward the communications center. Other colonists emerged from buildings looking confused and frightened. The alarm system had been installed but never used. Children cried as their parents hurried them inside. Workers abandoned their posts at the mining complex and rushed toward the colony center. At the communications center, Yoonji Nam stared at her displays with wide eyes. Her hands moved quickly across the controls, trying to confirm what the sensors were telling her. The long-range detection array, normally used to track incoming supply ships, had picked up something massive approaching their star system. Hyunwoo burst through the door, followed by So-young Kim and Taemin Lee. "What is it?" he demanded. Ships, Yunji said, her voice barely above a whisper. Many ships, coming from the direction of the Vorthak territories. Ji-hoon felt his blood turn cold. Every colonist knew about the Vorthak Empire, even though few had ever seen them. They were a species that conquered other worlds and enslaved or killed anyone who resisted. Human colonies in their path had simply vanished, leaving behind only silent planets and debris fields. How many ships? So Young asked. Yunji checked her readings again. At least 30 large vessels, probably more smaller ones. They will reach our system in 72 hours. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. The Vorthak did not negotiate. They did not trade. They came to conquer, and they brought overwhelming force to ensure victory. Could they be human ships? Hyunwoo asked. Though he already knew the answer, Ji-hoon shook his head. The energy signatures are wrong. These are definitely Vorthak vessels. I have studied their technology in university. Their ships use a different type of fusion drive that creates a unique sensor profile. Taemin stepped forward. What are our defenses? We have 30 security officers with basic weapons, Hyunwoo replied. Some mining equipment that could be converted to weapons. No spacecraft, no orbital defenses, no military vehicles. Against 30 Vorthak warships, So Young said quietly. They could destroy us from orbit without even landing troops. Then, why have they not done it already? Yunji asked. If they wanted to destroy the colony, they could have fired missiles from outside the system. Ji-hoon considered this. The Vorthak prefer to capture colonies intact when possible. They want the infrastructure, the mining equipment, and... He paused. They want slaves. The word hung in the air like a physical weight. Everyone in the room understood what it meant to be captured by the Vorthak. Stories from other colonies painted a picture of brutal work camps and genetic experiments. We need to evacuate, someone suggested. To where? Hyunwoo asked. We have no ships capable of interstellar travel. The cargo shuttles can barely reach orbit. What about sending a distress signal? Yunji asked. Maybe Earth Command will send help. Even if they received our message immediately, it would take weeks for any fleet to reach us. Ji-hoon replied. We have less than 3 days. Hyunwoo looked around the room at the faces of his friends and colleagues. These people had trusted him to lead them, and now he had to tell them they were going to die. Call an emergency assembly. Everyone in. The colony needs to hear this. 2 hours later, 12,000 colonists packed into the main plaza. Families huddled together as Hyunwoo stood on the steps of the administration building with a portable speaker. The evening sky above them looked peaceful, showing no sign of the approaching danger. We have detected a large fleet of alien ships approaching our system, Hyunwoo began. Based on their energy signatures, we believe they are Vorthak vessels. They will arrive in approximately 70 hours. The crowd erupted in frightened voices. Parents pulled their children closer. Some people began crying. Others shouted questions that could not be answered. Hyunwoo raised his hands for quiet. I will not lie to you. We do not have the weapons or ships needed to fight a Vorthak fleet. But we are not helpless. We have 3 days to prepare. Prepare. For what? Called out a voice from the crowd. To make them pay a price for this colony, Taemin said, stepping forward. To show them that humans do not give up without a fight. Da-eun Song raised her hand. What about the children? Can we hide them somewhere? The underground growing chambers, So Young suggested. They are deep enough to provide some protection from orbital bombardment. Min Ho-yoon spoke up. I can set up medical stations throughout the colony. If we are going to fight, we will need to treat wounded people. What weapons do we have? Asked a former Earth Defense Force veteran in the crowd. Taemin answered. Basic security weapons for 30 officers. Hunting rifles owned by some colonists. Mining charges that could be used as explosives. We can convert some of the heavy mining equipment into weapons platforms. It will not be enough, someone said. No, Hyunwoo agreed. It will not be enough to win, but it might be enough to make them remember us. An older woman near the front of the crowd stood up. Her name was Mrs. Park, and she had been among the first colonists to arrive. My husband died building this place, she said in a clear voice. My son was born here. This is our home. If we are going to die defending it, then we die with honor. Other voices joined hers. People began talking about what they could do, how they could help prepare the colony's defenses. The fear was still there, but it was mixed with something else now. Determination. Anger. The refusal to simply give up. As the crowd slowly dispersed, families making plans and saying things that might be final goodbyes, Ji-hoon found himself standing with the other leaders. Do you really think we can hurt them? So-young asked. The Vorthak are powerful, but they are not invincible, Ji-hoon replied. Human colonies have fought them before. Some even managed to inflict casualties before falling. How many casualties? Taemin wanted to know. Not enough to matter, Ji-hoon admitted. But every dead Vorthak soldier is one less to attack the next human world. Yoonji had been quiet during the assembly, but now she spoke up. I am going to send a message toward Earth, not asking for rescue because none can come in time. Just letting someone know what happened here, so people will remember New Busan. Do it, Hyunwoo said. Send everything. Our names, our families, what we built here. Let them know we did not go quietly. As the leaders walked back toward their homes and families, none of them noticed the small spark of light that appeared briefly in the sky above them. It lasted only a fraction of a second before disappearing, just another star in the alien night. But in the communications center, Yoonji's equipment registered a brief quantum signature on the very edge of detection range. She almost dismissed it as sensor noise, but something made her record the data anyway. 3 days later, when death seemed certain and hope was gone, that tiny signal would prove to be the most important discovery in the colony's history. For now, though, the people of New Busan prepared to make their final stand alone. The colony of New Busan had never seen such activity. As the second day of preparations began, every person worked with desperate energy. Sleep had become a luxury no one could afford. The approaching Vorthak fleet was now less than 40 hours away. In the main workshop, So-young Kim directed teams of engineers and miners as they converted industrial equipment into weapons. The massive ore haulers, normally used to transport materials from the mines, were being fitted with explosive mining charges. Their thick armor plating would provide some protection, but everyone knew they would not survive long against military. Weapons. Mount the charges on the front of each hauler, So-young instructed her team. Wire them to the control system so the driver can detonate them manually. Make sure the blast directs forward and down. A young engineer named Dong-ho looked up from his work. So-young, these machines are not fast. The Vorthak will see them coming from kilometers away. That is the point, she replied. We want them to focus on the obvious targets while our real defenses hit them from the sides. At the colony's edge, Taemin Lee was training volunteers in basic combat tactics. Most of these people had never held weapons before. Farmers, teachers, mechanics, and office workers now learned how to use rifles and prepare ambush positions. "Remember, we are not trying to win a fair fight," Taemin told the group. "We use hit-and-run tactics. Fire a few shots, then move to a new position before they can respond. Make them work for every meter of ground." An older man raised his hand. "What if we just surrender? Maybe they will let our families live." Taemin's expression darkened. "The Vorthak do not take prisoners the way humans do. They use captured populations as slave labor until they die. Your children would grow up in work camps if they survive at all." The harsh truth silenced any thoughts of surrender. These colonists might die fighting, but at least they would die free. In the hydroponics center, Da-Un Song was preparing the underground chambers to hide the colony's children. The growing tunnels extended deep into the mountain bedrock, originally designed to protect plants from the planet's harsh weather. Now they would serve as the last refuge for New Busan's youngest residents. "We can fit about 800 children and elderly people down here," Da-Un explained to the parents helping her. "There is food storage, water supplies, and air recycling systems. They can survive for weeks if necessary." A mother holding her baby asked, "What about communication? How will we know what is happening above?" "Yunji is installing emergency radios throughout the tunnel system. You will be able to hear what is happening, but you must stay hidden no matter what you hear." The parents understood. They were asking their children to hide while their mothers and fathers died defending them. It was the hardest choice any parent could make, but it was their only hope. At the medical center, Minho Yoon worked with his staff to set up emergency treatment stations throughout the colony. They moved supplies and equipment to reinforced buildings that might survive orbital bombardment. Medical kits were distributed to every defense position. "We do not have enough plasma for serious wounds," his assistant warned. "Then we use what we have wisely," Minho replied. "Save the plasma for people who can be saved. Comfort the others as best we can." It was a cold calculation, but necessary. In the coming battle, medical resources would be overwhelmed. They had to focus on saving those who could still fight. In his laboratory, Dr. Ji-Hoon Choi was working on something different. Using his knowledge of Vorthak biology, he was creating a weapon that might surprise their attackers. The planet's native fungi produced toxins that were harmless to humans but deadly to most alien species. The spores can be dispersed through the air conditioning systems in any building the Vorthak occupy, he explained to Hyun-woo. "It will not kill them immediately, but it will weaken them over several hours." How do we deploy it? Booby traps. In the main buildings. When they enter, pressure sensors will release the spores. They will think it is just local contamination until it is too late. Meanwhile, Yoonji Nam was completing the most important task of all. In the communications center, she carefully composed humanity's final message from New Busan. The quantum transmitter had enough power for one long-range broadcast before the Vorthak arrived. To any human vessel or colony receiving this transmission, she spoke into the recorder. "This is New Busan colony on Kepler 442c. We are under attack by a Vorthak fleet estimated at 30 capital ships. We have no military defenses and no hope of rescue. In approximately 36 hours, this colony will fall." She paused, looking out the window at families working together to prepare their final defenses. Children helped their parents carry supplies. Elderly colonists shared stories of Earth with the young ones who might never see their ancestral home. We want the galaxy to know that we did not surrender, Yunji continued. 12,000 humans lived here, worked here, loved here, and raised their children here. We built something beautiful on this distant world. When the Vorthak come, we will fight them with everything we have. She attached detailed files about the colony's history, its people, and their achievements. Maps of the settlement, records of births and deaths, photographs of families and celebrations. If humanity survived the coming darkness, they would remember New Busan. We do not ask for rescue because none can arrive in time. We ask only that you remember us, and that you make the Vorthak pay for what they take from humanity. This is Yunji Nam, Communications Officer of New Busan Colony, signing off. The message launched into space on quantum frequencies, carrying the hopes and defiance of an entire world toward the stars. Yunji did not know if anyone would receive it, but she had done her duty. As the third day dawned, the preparations were nearly complete. The colony had been transformed into a fortress. Barricades blocked the main streets. Explosive charges were hidden in key buildings. Weapon positions covered every approach route. The underground shelters were stocked and ready. Families gathered for what might be their final meals together. In the community center, Mrs. Park led a group of colonists in singing old songs from Earth. Their voices carried across the settlement, mixing defiance with sorrow. Hyunwoo stood on the administration building's roof, looking out over the colony. He had helped build and now prepared to defend. The morning sun painted the mountains in shades of gold and red. It was beautiful, this world they had made their home. Tae-min joined him on the roof. The volunteers are as ready as they can be. Not soldiers, but they will fight. Any regrets? Hyunwoo asked. About coming here? No. About not having more time? Yes. So, Young climbed the stairs to join them. All weapon systems are operational. The ore haulers are loaded and ready. We will give them a surprise they will not expect. And after that, we make them earn this victory one building at a time. Ji-hoon appeared with a tablet showing long-range sensor data. The Vorthak fleet has entered our outer system. They will reach orbital position in 8 hours. The four leaders stood together in silence, watching their colony wake up for what might be its last day. Children played in the streets while their parents made final preparations. It was a scene of ordinary life about to be shattered by alien violence. Whatever happens, Hyunwoo said finally, we made something good here. We raised families, built homes, and lived free. That has to count for something. It counts for everything, Tae-min replied. That is why we fight. As the day progressed, and the Vorthak fleet grew larger on the sensors, the people of New Busan prepared to show the galaxy what humans would do when cornered. They might die, but they would not die quietly. The story of their final stand would echo across the stars, a testament to the courage of ordinary people facing impossible odds. The battle for New Busan was about to begin. The Vorthak fleet hung in space above New Busan like a dark omen. 30 massive warships, each one larger than the entire human colony, blocked out sections of the star field. Their black hulls absorbed light, making them appear as holes torn. In the fabric of space itself, Admiral Zethkar stood on the command bridge of his flagship, the Void Render. He was tall even by Vorthak standards, with the ritual scars of 100 victories carved into his gray skin. His 4 eyes studied the planet below with cold calculation. This would be another easy conquest, another human settlement to add to the Empire's growing collection of slave worlds. "Surface scan complete, Admiral," reported his tactical officer. 12,000 humans, minimal defenses. No orbital weapons, no military spacecraft. "As expected," Zethkar replied in his species' harsh language. "These outer rim colonies are always defenseless. The humans spread too far, too fast, without the strength to protect what they claim. Shall we proceed with orbital bombardment? No. The mining equipment is valuable, and we need workers for the lithium extraction operations in the Kepler sector. We will take the colony intact." On the planet's surface, Hyunwoo Park stood in the colony's command center, watching the enemy fleet through the long-range telescopes. The ships were so large they could be seen as tiny specks even without magnification. Each one carried enough firepower to level the entire settlement. "They are not firing," observed Tae-min Lee, who stood beside him studying tactical displays. "They want the colony intact," replied Dr. Ji-hoon Choi. "The Vorthak prefer to capture infrastructure when possible. It saves them the trouble of rebuilding." Yoon-ji. Nam looked up from her communications station. "I am receiving a transmission from the lead ship. They are broadcasting on multiple frequencies." "Put it through the main speakers," Hyunwoo ordered. The voice that filled the command center was electronically translated from the Vorthak language, giving it an inhuman mechanical quality. "Humans of the surface colony, I am Admiral Zethkar of the Vorthak Third Fleet. You will surrender immediately and prepare for relocation to labor camps. Resistance will result in your extermination." Hyunwoo picked up the microphone, his hands steady despite the fear coursing through his body. Around the colony, 12,000 people listened to his words through the public address system. "This is Administrator Hyunwoo Park of New Busan Colony. We reject your demands. This is our home, and we will defend it." A long pause followed. When Zethkar's voice returned, it carried a note of surprise. "You would choose death over service. To the Empire?" "We choose freedom over slavery," Hyunwoo replied. "If you want this colony, come and take it." In the underground shelters, parents held their children close as they listened to their leader's defiant words. Da-yoon Song managed the evacuation of the youngest colonists, guiding families through the tunnels that would be their refuge. 800 children and elderly residents crowded into the hydroponics chambers far below the surface where they might survive the coming battle. "Stay quiet, no matter what you hear," Da-un whispered to the children. "Your parents are heroes, and they are fighting to keep you safe." Above ground, the Vorthak response was swift and terrifying. Dropships began launching from the enemy fleet, black shapes falling through the atmosphere like deadly rain. Each ship carried 50 elite shock troopers, genetically enhanced warriors bred for conquest. So Young Kim watched the incoming ships from her position at the mining complex. 30 dropships confirmed. They are landing in a perimeter around the colony, probably to prevent escape attempts. "All units, this is Tae-min," came the security chief's voice over the radio. "Remember the plan. Let them land and advance. We hit them when they reach the kill zones." The first Vorthak dropship touched down in a field 2 kilometers from the colony's edge. Its landing thrusters scorched the alien grass as assault ramps lowered with mechanical precision. The warriors that emerged were nightmares made real. 3 meters tall, covered in natural armor plating, carrying weapons that hummed with deadly energy. Squad leader Vextar was among the first to step onto the planet's surface. He had participated in the conquest of 17 human colonies, and each one had fallen within hours. These soft mammals were no match for Vorthak military might. "Advance to Objective Alpha," he commanded his squad. "Establish perimeter and prepare for assault on primary settlement." The Vorthak moved with practiced efficiency, spreading out in attack formations that had conquered dozens of worlds. Their sensors detected the human defensive positions, but they dismissed them as insignificant. What could mining equipment and civilian volunteers do against veteran shock troopers? At the colony's outer perimeter, farmer-turned-soldier Jae-ho Kim crouched behind a barricade made from overturned cargo containers. He had never fired a weapon in anger before 3 days ago. Now he clutched his rifle and watched alien soldiers advance across the field where he used to grow vegetables for his family. "Wait for the signal," he whispered to the volunteers on either side of him. "Let them get close." The Vorthak moved in perfect formation, their energy weapons scanning for targets. They expected the humans to break and run at the first sight of their approach. Instead, they found empty positions and abandoned barricades. The colonists had pulled back, drawing the invaders deeper into the settlement. "Something is wrong," Vextar muttered to his second-in-command. "Where are the defenders?" His question was answered by the roar of mining explosives detonating in sequence. The charges had been buried along the Vorthak advance routes, hidden beneath the innocent-looking surface. The explosion sent shock troopers flying through the air, their armor cracked and smoking. "Ambush! Take cover!" Vextar roared, but the damage was done. Half his squad was dead or wounded, and human fighters were emerging from concealed positions to attack his flanks. Jae-ho fired his rifle at the nearest Vorthak warrior, the weapon bucking in his hands. His shots struck the alien's chest armor, sending sparks flying but not penetrating. The warrior turned toward him, raising its energy weapon. Before the Vorthak could fire, one of So Young's converted ore haulers crashed through a nearby building. The massive machine was essentially a mobile bomb, its front loaded with mining charges and driven by a volunteer who knew he would not survive the mission. The resulting explosion lit up the evening sky like a second sun. When the smoke cleared, nothing remained of the Vorthak position except a crater and scattered pieces of alien armor. Similar scenes played out across the colony's perimeter as human defenders used every advantage they could find. They fought from rooftops and basements, using mining tunnels to move unseen between positions. Each Vorthak advance was met with explosive booby traps and desperate courage. But the invaders kept coming. For every shock trooper killed, 2 more took his place. The Vorthak had overwhelming numbers and superior weapons. Slowly, methodically, they pushed the human defenders back toward the colony center. Min-ho Yoon worked frantically at his medical stations, treating wounded volunteers who were carried in from the fighting, burns from energy weapons, broken bones, from explosions, and worse. He did what he could, but the casualties were mounting faster than he could handle. "We are losing too many people," he reported over the radio to Hyun-woo. "Hold your positions as long as possible," came the reply. "Every minute we delay them is another minute for the children to stay hidden." By midnight, the Vorthak had taken the outer third of the colony. Buildings burned behind their advance as they methodically cleared each structure. The human defenders had made them pay for every meter, but the outcome was never in doubt. Admiral Zethkar watched the battle from his flagship, growing increasingly annoyed. "Why is this taking so long? These are not soldiers. They are farmers and miners." "The humans are using unconventional tactics," his tactical officer replied. "They have prepared extensive booby traps and are fighting with more determination than expected. I want this finished by dawn, Order all units to intensify the assault. On the planet's surface, Taemin Lee gathered his remaining security officers in the colony's central plaza. Less than half of his original force was still alive and able to fight. Around them, the sounds of battle grew closer as the Vorthak pressed their advantage. "We cannot hold them much longer," he admitted to his team. "But we can make sure they remember the price of taking New Busan." The final phase of the battle was about to begin, and the people of New Busan prepared to make their last stand in the place they had called home. Dawn broke over New Busan, with the orange light of the alien sun filtering through smoke and destruction. Half the colony lay in ruins, buildings reduced to rubble by Vorthak energy weapons and human explosive traps. The beautiful settlement that had taken 5 years to build was being destroyed in a single night. Taemin Lee pressed his back against the wall of the medical center, breathing heavily. Blood seeped through a crude bandage on his shoulder, where a Vorthak energy blast had grazed him. Around him, the last 15 members of his security force took what cover they could find among the debris. "Status report," he spoke into his radio, though he already knew the answer would be grim. "Outer perimeter lost," came So Young Kim's voice, crackling with static. "Eastern District overrun. I am falling back to the mining complex with maybe 20 volunteers." "Western District gone," reported another team leader. "The Vorthak are advancing on the school building." Taemin closed his eyes for a moment. The school building was directly above the underground shelters where the children were hidden. If the invaders discovered the tunnels, 800 innocent lives would be lost. "All units, this is Taemin. We make our final stand at the administration building. Draw them away from the school and toward the center." He knew what he was asking. The administration building had no strategic value except as a symbol. By gathering there, the remaining defenders would sacrifice any chance of escape or victory. They were choosing to die so that others might live. In the underground shelters, Da-Eun's song held a crying baby while its mother listened to the radio reports. The tunnels echoed with muffled explosions from above, and dust fell from the ceiling with each impact. The children huddled together in the darkness, understanding without words that their parents were dying to protect them. "The fighting is moving away from us," Da-Eun whispered to the other adults. "Stay quiet. Stay hidden." Above ground, squad leader Vextar advanced through the ruins with his surviving warriors. The humans had fought harder than any species he had ever encountered. His original force of 50 soldiers was down to 37, and many of those were wounded. The soft mammals had extracted a price that the Empire would not soon forget. Thermal scans show human heat signatures concentrated. "In the central building," his tactical officer reported. "Approximately 50 defenders remaining." "Finally," Vexitar growled. "One final push, and this world is ours." At the administration building, Hyunwoo Park stood in his office looking out at the approaching enemy. The building where he had made decisions about crop rotations and equipment maintenance was now the site of humanity's last stand on this world. It seemed fitting, somehow, that he would die where he had lived as a leader. Yoonji Nam worked frantically at her communications station, trying to boost the signal strength of her equipment. "I am picking up something strange on the long range." "Sensors!" she called out. "Energy signatures at the edge of the system." "Vorthak reinforcements?" Hyunwoo asked. "No, the signatures are different, but I cannot get a clear reading through all the interference from the battle." So Young Kim's voice crackled over the radio. "Hyunwoo, I am setting the mining charges in the complex. When the Vorthak try to occupy it, they will get a surprise they will not expect. So young, you do not have to. Yes, I do. This is my home too. The transmission ended. Through the smoke and flames, Hyun-woo could see the mining complex in the distance. So Young was somewhere in those buildings, preparing to destroy everything she had worked to build rather than let it fall into alien hands. Dr. Ji-hoon Choi joined Hyun-woo at the window, carrying his rifle and the last of his fungal spore weapons. The biological agents worked better than expected. The Vorthak in the Eastern District are showing signs of respiratory distress. How long until it kills them? It will not kill them, but it will weaken them significantly over the next few hours. Perhaps long enough for... He stopped. Long enough for what? There was no rescue coming, no miracle that would save them. The first Vorthak warriors appeared in the plaza outside the administration building. They moved more slowly now, their formations looser after hours of fighting. The humans had taught them to respect the price of overconfidence. Here they come, Taemin said over the radio. All units, make every shot count. The final battle erupted with desperate fury. Human defenders fired from windows and doorways, while Vorthak warriors advanced behind energy shields. The building shook under the impact of alien weapons, walls cracking and support beams groaning. Taemin led a charge from the main entrance, his security officers following him into the plaza. They fired as they ran, trying to break up the Vorthak formation. It was a suicide mission, but it bought precious time for the others. A Vorthak energy blast caught Taemin in the chest, spinning him around and sending him crashing to the ground. As his vision blurred, he saw his officers falling around him. They had done their duty. The children were still hidden, still safe. Taemin is down, someone reported over the radio. All ground units are gone. In the administration building, the remaining defenders prepared for the final assault. Hyun-woo checked his rifle one last time, knowing he would probably only get a few shots before the end came. Yoonji, anything from your sensors? Still picking up those energy signatures, but they are too far away to matter. Whatever it is, it will not arrive for hours. Hours they did not have. The Vorthak were at the building's entrance now, their weapons cutting through the barricades that the colonists had built. Soon, they would be inside, and the Battle of New Busan would be over. It has been an honor serving with all of you, Hyun-woo said into his microphone, broadcasting to any human defenders who might still be alive. Tell your children about this place. Tell them we did not surrender. The Vorthak blasted through the main doors in a shower of sparks and debris. Armored figures poured into the lobby, their weapons sweeping for targets. The final defenders opened fire from the upper floors, their bullets sparking off alien armor. Vextar himself led the assault up the main staircase, his squad following close behind. These humans had cost him too many soldiers, and he wanted to finish them personally. Each step brought him closer to victory and the end of this troublesome resistance. In the underground tunnels, Da-Yun Song heard the sounds of fighting directly overhead. Explosions shook dust from the ceiling, and she could hear alien voices speaking in their harsh language. The children pressed closer together, understanding that death walked the corridors above them. At the mining complex, So Young, Kim made her final preparations. The charges were set throughout the facility, enough explosive power to level every building and crater the ground for hundreds of meters. When the Vorthak tried to claim their prize, they would find only destruction. She sat in the control room, her finger hovering over the detonation switch. Through the window, she could see alien soldiers beginning to enter the complex. It was time, "For New Busan," she whispered, and pressed the button. The explosion lit up the dawn sky like a small sun. The mining complex vanished in a ball of fire and debris, taking with it 50 Vorthak warriors and any hope the invaders had of easy victory. The shock wave shattered windows throughout the colony and knocked fighting soldiers to the ground. In the administration building, the battle reached its climax. Hyunwoo and the last few defenders made their stand in the communications center, surrounded by alien warriors. Yunji's equipment sparked and smoked from weapon impacts, but her sensors still showed those mysterious energy signatures at the edge of the system. "Unknown contacts now entering the outer system," she reported, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "Multiple large vessels, approaching at high velocity." "More Vorthak ships?" Ji-hoon asked. "No, the energy signatures are completely different. These are—" Her voice cut off as a Vorthak energy blast destroyed her console in a shower of sparks. Vextar stepped into the communications center, his weapon trained on the last human defenders. "Your resistance ends now. Surrender and your deaths will be quick." Hyunwoo looked around at his friends and colleagues, these brave people who had chosen to die rather than live as slaves. They had fought with mining equipment and civilian weapons against one of the galaxy's most feared military forces. They had nothing left to give except their lives. "We do not surrender," he said quietly. "Then you die as fools," Vextar replied, raising his weapon. But before the alien could fire, alarms began sounding throughout the Vorthak fleet. In space above the planet, Admiral Zethkar stared at his tactical displays in growing alarm. New contacts were emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the system, massive vessels moving at combat speed toward his position. "Identity confirmed," his tactical officer reported, his voice tight with fear. "Earth Defense Force fleet, 200 vessels strong. Lead ship is broadcasting on all frequencies." The message that came through was in perfect Vorthak, spoken by a human voice that carried the authority of absolute command. "This is Admiral Kyung-soo Han of the Earth Defense Force. You have made a grave mistake." Space itself seemed to tear open at the edge of the Kepler 442 system as massive human warships emerged from hyperspace. The lead vessel, the EDF Incheon, was a kilometer-long battleship bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Behind, it came wave after wave of Earth's mightiest fleet, 200 ships strong, their hull markings gleaming in the light of the distant star. Admiral Kyung-soo Han stood on the bridge of his flagship, his weathered face set in stone as he surveyed the tactical displays. At 55, he had spent 30 years defending humanity's expansion into the galaxy. He had fought pirates, rebels, and alien raiders, but this was different. This was personal. "Sir, we have visual confirmation," reported Captain Si-Jin Kang from the heavy battleship Seoul. 30 Vorthak vessels in orbit around the colony world. Multiple dropships on the surface. The attack is already in progress. Han's jaw tightened. 3 hours earlier, they had received Yunji Nam's desperate transmission through the quantum relay network. The message had reached them during the largest fleet exercise in Earth Defense Force history, 200 ships conducting deep space maneuvers in the Perseus Arm. When the distress call arrived, Han had not hesitated for a single second. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the Vorthak flagship," reported the communications officer. "Put it through." Admiral Zethkar's translated voice filled the bridge, carrying the arrogance typical of his species. "Human commander, you are trespassing in Vorthak territory. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Han stepped forward, his voice carrying the authority of Earth's entire military might. I am Admiral Kyung-Soo Han of the Earth Defense Force. The world you are attacking is a human colony under the protection of Earth. You have exactly 60 seconds to withdraw your forces and depart this system. You dare threaten the Vorthak. Empire, we outnumber you 6-1. 45 seconds. Zethkar's laugh was harsh and grating. Your species is weak, scattered across too many worlds. We will add your ships to our collection of trophies. 30 seconds, Han replied calmly. Captain Kang, target the enemy flagship. All vessels prepare for immediate engagement. Throughout the human fleet, weapons systems powered up and shields activated. The newest Korean-built battleships Seoul, Daegu, and Gwangju moved into attack formation, their massive railguns swiveling toward the Vorthak fleet. Smaller cruisers and destroyers spread out in a battle line that stretched across thousands of kilometers. Time's up, Han announced. All ships, you are authorized to engage. Show them why Earth protects its own. The Battle of Kepler 442 began with a thunderous barrage from the human fleet. The Seoul fired its main battery, sending tungsten projectiles the size of cargo containers screaming across space at relativistic speeds. The rounds struck the Vorthak flagship's shields, overloading them in a cascade of energy that lit up the entire system. Captain Si-Jin Kang watched her weapons strike home with grim satisfaction. Direct hit on the enemy flagship. Their shields are down to 60%. Continue firing, Han ordered. I want that ship crippled, not destroyed. We need prisoners for interrogation. The Vorthak fleet tried to respond, but they were caught. Completely off guard, their ships had been positioned for orbital bombardment, not fleet combat. As they struggled to reposition, the human vessels pressed their advantage with devastating precision. On the surface of New Busan, the sudden appearance of energy weapons fire in the sky brought the ground battle to a confused halt. Vorthak warriors looked up in amazement as their mighty fleet was engaged by an enemy that should not exist. Squad leader Vextar, still standing over the human defenders in the administration building, received frantic communications from his ships. All surface units, this is Fleet Command. We are under attack by a massive human fleet. Prepare for possible withdrawal. Impossible, Vextar snarled. The humans have no forces in this sector. Above them, the space battle raged with increasing fury. The Vorthak heavy cruiser Death's Edge exploded in a ball of plasma as concentrated fire from 3 human destroyers overwhelmed its defenses. Escape pods scattered like seeds in the void as the alien crew abandoned their dying ship. Admiral Zethkar watched in growing horror as his fleet was systematically destroyed. How did they know? How did they arrive so quickly? His tactical officer, panic creeping into his voice, provided the answer they had all missed. Sir, our intelligence was wrong. The human quantum communication network is more extensive than we believed. The colony was able to call for help. Then we finish this quickly. Order all ships to begin orbital bombardment of the planet. If we cannot have the colony, we will deny it to them. But as the Vorthak vessels turned their weapons toward New Busan, they found their way blocked by human ships. The Earth fleet had positioned itself between the invaders and the planet, willing to take fire to protect the colonists below. Sir, the enemy is targeting the planet, reported the Incheon's tactical officer. Not while I draw breath, Han replied, coldly. All ships, maximum engagement. I want every Vorthak vessel disabled or destroyed within the next 10 minutes. The human fleet surged forward in a coordinated attack that had been practiced in countless simulations. Korean-built ships led the charge, their crews fighting with the knowledge that their people's ancestors were among the colonists being threatened below. Commander Junho Park led his destroyer squadron in a daring assault on the Vorthak battle line. His ship, the Busan, shared its name with the colony they were fighting to save. All ships in Squadron 7, follow my lead. We break their formation and open them up for the battleships. The destroyers dove into the heart of the enemy fleet, their lighter weapons striking at vulnerable points, while massive Vorthak guns tracked them too slowly. It was a deadly dance of speed versus firepower, and the human crews performed it flawlessly. On the surface, Yunji Nam's damaged equipment managed to pick up fragments of the space battle communications. "The Earth fleet," she whispered in amazement. "They came! They actually came for us!" Hyunwoo could hardly believe what he was hearing. For months they had believed Earth had abandoned them, written them off as too distant to matter. Now the mightiest fleet in human space was fighting to save their small colony. Squad leader Vextar received new orders from his increasingly desperate fleet command. "All ground forces, withdraw to landing zones immediately. Prepare for emergency evacuation." "We are on the verge of victory," Vextar protested. "The fleet is being destroyed. We leave now or we die here." The Vorthak warriors began a fighting, withdrawal toward their dropships, but the human colonists were not about to let them escape easily. From hidden positions throughout the colony, the survivors emerged to harass the retreating invaders. In space, the battle reached its climax, as Admiral Zethkar's flagship came under concentrated fire from the entire human battle line. The Void Render was the most powerful ship in the Vorthak fleet, but it could not withstand the combined firepower of 20 human capital ships. "Shields failing," reported his tactical officer. "Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. We are losing life support." Zethkar looked around his burning bridge and made the hardest decision of his military career. "Signal all ships to withdraw. We cannot win this battle." "Sir, what about our ground forces?" "They are expendable. The fleet must survive to warn the Empire." But Han was not about to let the alien commander escape. "Captain Kang, I want the flagship captured intact. Board them if necessary." The Soul moved alongside the crippled Vorthak vessel, its marines, preparing to cross the void and take possession of the enemy ship. It would be the first time in galactic history that a Vorthak admiral was taken prisoner by human forces. As the remaining Vorthak ships jumped to hyperspace in chaotic retreat, their ground forces found themselves trapped on the planet's surface. Most of their dropships had been destroyed by debris from the space battle, and there was no fleet to evacuate them. Squad leader Vextar realized the bitter truth as he looked up at the sky filled with human warships. "We are abandoned," he told his remaining warriors. "The Empire has sacrificed us to save the fleet." In the administration building, Hyunwoo Park walked to the window and looked out at the Vorthak soldiers standing in the plaza below. They no longer looked like invincible conquerors. They looked like what they were, stranded invaders far from home, facing an enemy that had just proven its strength. "This is Administrator Hyunwoo Park to all Vorthak forces on the surface," he broadcast on their military frequencies. "Your fleet has been defeated and has abandoned you. Surrender now and you will be treated according to the laws of war. Continue fighting and you will be destroyed." The response came quickly. White flags appeared throughout the colony as the remaining Vorthak forces laid down their weapons. The Battle of New Busan was over, and humanity had won its first major victory against the Vorthak Empire. In the underground shelters, Da Yun's song hugged the children as news of the victory spread through the tunnels. "Your parents are heroes," she told them through her tears. "They saved us all." Above them, the sky filled with human ships beginning their descent to the planet's surface. Admiral Han's personal shuttle was among the first to land, carrying medical supplies and the promise that no human colony would ever stand alone again. The space around New Busan had become a graveyard of Vorthak ambitions. Burning hulks of alien warships drifted between the human fleet like monuments to the Empire's first major defeat. Admiral Kyung-Soo Han stood on the bridge of the Incheon, watching his crews conduct rescue operations while preparing for the next phase of their mission. "Admiral, we have Admiral Zethkar in custody," reported Captain Si-Jin Kang. "His flagship is secured, and our teams are downloading their databases." "Excellent work, Captain. What about the other ships?" 12 Vorthak vessels destroyed, 6 more captured intact. The remaining ships jumped to hyperspace in full retreat. They will carry word of this defeat back to their empire. Han nodded with satisfaction. "Let them carry the news. Let the entire Vorthak Empire know that humanity was no longer easy prey." The galaxy's balance of power had shifted in the span of 2 hours. On the surface of New Busan, Colonel Woo Jin Park supervised the landing of the 101st Marine Assault Division. His dropships descended through the smoke-filled atmosphere, their engines scattering the debris of battle as they approached the colony's landing zones. "Alpha Company, secure the perimeter," he ordered over the radio. "Bravo Company, establish medical aid stations. Charlie Company, begin rounding up the surrendered Vorthak forces." The Marines who emerged from the ships were among Earth's finest soldiers, veterans of campaigns across human space. They moved with professional efficiency, but many stopped to stare at the devastation around them. The colony showed signs of desperate fighting, buildings reduced to rubble, streets scarred by energy weapons. "Look at this place," muttered Sergeant Kim Jong-soo as his squad advanced through the ruins. "These people held off an entire Vorthak assault force with mining equipment." "Shows what humans can do when cornered," replied his squad leader. "Remind me never to underestimate civilian determination." In the administration building, Hyunwoo Park emerged from the ruins to greet the arriving Marines. His clothes were torn and blood-stained, his face marked by exhaustion and smoke, but his eyes burned with the fierce pride of a man who had refused to surrender. Colonel Park saluted the colony administrator with genuine respect. "Sir, I am Colonel Woo-Jin Park of the Earth Defense Force. Admiral Han sends his compliments and his promise that help has arrived." "Thank you, Colonel," Hyunwoo replied, his voice hoarse from breathing smoke. "We were not sure anyone would remember us out here." "Earth never forgets its children," the colonel assured him. "Where are your wounded?" "My medics are standing by." The rescue operations began immediately. Marine medics worked alongside Dr. Min-ho Yoon to treat the colony's wounded, their advanced medical equipment saving lives that would have been lost with the colony's limited resources. Casualty reports came in gradually. 400 colonists dead, 800 wounded, but 8,000 survivors who would live to rebuild their home. In the underground shelters, Da Yun's song led the children back to the surface for the first time in 3 days. Many of them had never seen human soldiers before, and they stared in wonder at the Marines in their powered armor. The sight of Earth Defense Force insignias brought tears to the eyes of parents who had thought they would never see their homeworld's protection again. "Mama, are those the heroes who saved us?" asked the little girl, pointing at a squad of Marines distributing food and water. "Yes, darling," her mother replied. "They came from Earth to help us." Admiral Han himself arrived on the planet's surface, within hours of the battle's end. His shuttle touched down in the colony's central plaza, now cleared of debris and Vorthak bodies. The assembled colonists gathered to meet the man who had led their rescue, their faces showing a mixture of gratitude and awe. Han was not an imposing figure physically, but his presence commanded instant respect. He had spent his career protecting humanity's expansion into the galaxy, and his weathered face showed the weight of that responsibility. As he stepped from his shuttle, the colonists broke into spontaneous applause. "Citizens of New Busan," he began, his voice carrying clearly across the plaza, "I want you to know that Earth has heard your courage, and the galaxy will remember your sacrifice. You faced impossible odds and refused to surrender. You are the finest example of human determination." Hyun Woo stepped forward, still barely, able to believe the Admiral was really there. "Sir, we thought Earth had abandoned us. We believed we were on our own." "That was our failure," Han replied solemnly. "The outer colonies were left too isolated, too vulnerable. This attack has shown us that we must do better. No human world will ever stand alone again." The Admiral's words carried the weight of a promise that would reshape human space. Even as they spoke, construction ships were being dispatched from Earth to build permanent defense stations throughout the outer rim. The age of easy conquests was over. Captain Si-Jin Kang joined the surface conference, bringing intelligence gathered from the captured Vorthak vessels. "Admiral, the alien databases contain detailed plans for attacks on 17 other human colonies. New Busan was just the beginning of a major offensive." "Not anymore," Han replied grimly. "Send word to all fleet commanders. We are implementing Operation Shield Wall immediately. Every threatened colony will receive protection." The revelation that New Busan was part of a larger Vorthak campaign sent shockwaves through the Earth Defense Force hierarchy. For years, the Empire had been probing human defenses, looking for weaknesses. They had seen humanity's scattered colonies as easy targets, ripe for conquest and enslavement. Now they had learned the hard truth. Earth's reach was longer and stronger than they had imagined. The largest human fleet ever assembled had appeared within hours of an attack on one of their most distant colonies. The implications would be felt throughout Vorthak space. Dr. Ji-hoon Choi approached the Admiral with samples of the biological weapons he had created. "Sir, these fungal spores proved effective against Vorthak respiratory systems. The information might be useful for future encounters." Han examined the data with interest. "Doctor, how quickly could this be mass-produced?" "With proper facilities, we could equip every human colony within months. It would give our civilians a fighting chance against future attacks." "Make it happen. I want every settlement armed with whatever advantages we can provide." As the day progressed, the full scope of the human victory became clear. The Vorthak Third Fleet, one of their most powerful formations, had been effectively destroyed. Admiral Zethkar's capture provided invaluable intelligence about Empire military capabilities and plans. Most importantly, the galaxy had witnessed humanity's response to aggression against its people. Word of the battle spread through the quantum communication networks, reaching every human world and many alien civilizations. The message was clear: attack one human colony, and you face the entire might of Earth. Yoonji Nam worked with Earth Fleet communications officers to re-establish contact with the wider galaxy. Her jury-rigged equipment had saved the colony by getting their distress call through, and now it would carry news of their salvation to the stars. "This is New Busan Colony to all human stations," she broadcast. "We are alive, we are free, and we are no longer alone. Earth's protection reaches farther than our enemies believed." The message was picked up by colonies throughout human space, sparking celebrations on worlds that had feared they too might be abandoned in humanity's expansion. Children who had never seen Earth learned that their ancestral homeworld had not forgotten them. In the medical centers, So Young Kim slowly recovered from her injuries sustained in the mining complex explosion. The blast that had killed 50 Vorthak warriors had also thrown her clear of the immediate danger, leaving her unconscious but alive. When she awoke to see Earth Defense Force medics treating her wounds, she thought she was dreaming. "The mining equipment," she mumbled as consciousness returned. "Did the charges work?" "They worked perfectly," Colonel Park assured her. "Your sacrifice saved countless lives and dealt a major blow to the enemy." As evening fell over New Busan, memorial services began for those who had died defending their home. Tae-Min Lee was among the honored dead, the security chief who had led the final charge that bought time for others to survive. His name would be carved into the monument that would be built to commemorate the battle. Admiral Han attended the ceremonies, standing alongside colonists who had lost everything but their freedom. "These people died as heroes," he told the assembled crowd. "They showed the galaxy what humanity stands for. We will not let their sacrifice be forgotten." The Battle of New Busan had ended with complete human victory, but its consequences were just beginning. The Vorthak Empire would think twice before attacking human colonies, knowing that Earth's fleets could appear anywhere in the galaxy within hours. Other alien powers watched with new respect and caution as humanity demonstrated its protective reach. For the colonists of New Busan, the nightmare was over. They would rebuild their homes under the protection of a permanent Earth Defense Force garrison. Their children would grow up knowing that they were part of something larger than their small world, part of a human civilization that would never abandon its own. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson. Humanity protects its family, no matter how far from home they might be. 6 months after the Battle of New Busan, the colony bore little resemblance to the war-torn settlement that had defied the Vorthak Empire. New buildings rose from the rubble, their walls stronger and their foundations deeper. The scars of battle remained, but they were now badges of honor rather than wounds of defeat. Hyunwoo Park stood in his new office, looking out at construction crews working alongside colonists to build a memorial park where the fiercest fighting had taken place. Earth Defense Force engineers had provided advanced materials and equipment, but the colonists insisted on doing much of the work themselves. This was their home, rebuilt by their own hands. "The new shield generators are operational," reported So Young Kim as she entered the office. Her left arm was still weak from her injuries, but she refused to let that slow down the reconstruction effort. "If anyone tries to attack us again, they will find a very different reception." The defensive installations were just one sign of how completely the galaxy had changed since that desperate night. Orbital weapons platforms hung in space above New Busan, their sensors constantly scanning for threats. A squadron of Earth Defense Force ships patrolled the system, their crews rotating from the permanent base established on the planet's second moon. Admiral Kyung-Soo Han had kept his promise. No human colony would ever stand alone again. Dr. Ji-Hoon Choi worked in his expanded laboratory, which now included Earth's most advanced xenobiology equipment. His research on defensive bioweapons had been classified at the highest levels, but its applications were already protecting human colonies throughout the galaxy. The Vorthak would never again have the advantage of biological immunity. The latest reports from the border colonies are encouraging, he told Hyun-woo. 3 more Vorthak probing attacks have been repelled with minimal casualties. Word of our victory here has made them much more cautious. The psychological impact of New Busan's successful defense had rippled throughout both human and alien space. The Vorthak Empire, once considered invincible, had suffered a humiliating defeat at the hands of what they had assumed were defenseless farmers and miners. Their expansionist policies had ground to a halt as they reassessed the true strength of human civilization. In the new communications center, Yoonji Nam monitored the quantum relay networks that now connected every human world. The isolation that had nearly doomed New Busan was a thing of the past. Any colony under attack could call for help and know that the entire might of Earth would respond. Admiral Han's flagship is requesting permission to land, she reported to Hyun-woo. He wants to inspect the new defenses and attend the memorial dedication. Of course, Hyun-woo replied. He is always welcome here. The Admiral's visits had become regular events, part of his new mission to personally oversee the defense of humanity's frontier worlds. He had been promoted to Supreme Commander of Outer Rim Defense with authority to deploy fleets wherever they were needed most. The man who had saved New Busan now protected all of human space. When Han's shuttle landed in the colony's expanded spaceport, he was greeted not just by the leadership, but by hundreds of colonists who had come to see the man they considered their savior. Children who had hidden in underground tunnels during the battle now ran free in the streets, their laughter echoing off walls that had once echoed with weapons fire. Administrator Park, Han said formally, but his smile showed genuine warmth. The colony looks magnificent. Your people have outdone themselves. Our people, Admiral, Hyun-woo corrected gently. We learned that night that we were never really alone. We are all part of something larger. They walked together through the rebuilt streets, past the new school where Da-yeon's song taught children about the wider galaxy they were part of. The hydroponics centers had been expanded and fortified, capable of sustaining the colony indefinitely, even under siege. The mining complex buzzed with activity as advanced Earth technology increased production far beyond pre-war levels. At the medical center, Dr. Min Ho-yoon showed them the new emergency facilities equipped with the most advanced trauma equipment Earth could provide. We can handle anything now, he said proudly. Injuries that would have been fatal 6 months ago are now routine treatments. But it was at the memorial park that the true meaning of the transformation became clear. A wall of black stone bore the names of all 400 colonists who had died defending their home. At its center stood a statue of a family, parents shielding their children while looking defiantly toward the stars. The inscription at the base read simply, "They stood alone until Earth remembered its promise. No one gets left behind." Families gathered around the memorial as Admiral Han spoke at the dedication ceremony. Veterans of the battle stood alongside, children too young to remember the terror, united by their shared understanding of what had been saved. 6 months ago, the galaxy learned something important, Han began. They learned that humanity's strength is not measured by the size of our fleets or the power of our weapons. It is measured by our willingness to protect each other, no matter the cost or distance. The crowd listened in reverent silence as he continued. The people of New Busan showed us who we really are. When faced with impossible odds, they chose to fight rather than submit. When death seemed certain, they protected their children and trusted that help would come. They were right to trust, because we will always come. Colonel Woo Jin Park, now the permanent garrison commander, added his own words. This memorial does not just honor the dead. It serves as a promise to the living. Never again will a human colony face extinction alone. The Earth Defense Force has sworn this oath on the graves of these heroes. As the ceremony concluded, many in the crowd wept, not from sorrow, but from the overwhelming gratitude of people who had been saved from certain death. The children released white balloons into the sky, each one carrying a message of thanks to the crews of the ships that had appeared when all hope seemed lost. That evening, Han met privately with the colony's leadership in the rebuilt administration building. The scars on the walls had been repaired, but small plaques marked the spots where the final battle had been fought. The intelligence we gained from captured Vorthak ships has been invaluable, he informed them. We have identified and reinforced 17 other colonies that were marked for attack. The Empire's expansion has been completely halted. What about their response to the defeat? So Young asked. Will they try to retaliate? They cannot afford to, Han replied. Losing an entire fleet to what they considered easy targets has damaged their reputation throughout their empire. Several subject species have begun rebellion, believing the Vorthak are not as invincible as they claimed. Dr. Ji-hoon leaned forward with interest. Are you saying our victory here has inspired other species to resist Vorthak rule? Exactly, Han confirmed. 3 different species have declared independence from the Empire in the past 4 months. The Vorthak military is spread thin trying to maintain control of their existing territories. They have no resources for new conquests. Yoonji smiled at the irony. So by trying to enslave one small human colony, they may have destroyed their entire empire. It appears that way. Intelligence suggests the Vorthak are facing internal political crisis as well. Admiral Zeth Kar was not just a military commander. He was heir to the imperial throne. His capture has created a succession crisis that could lead to civil war. The implications were staggering. The Battle of New Busan had not just saved one colony. It had potentially liberated dozens of species from Vorthak oppression. The small settlement that had once felt forgotten by the galaxy had become the catalyst for galactic change. There is something else you should know, Han continued. Earth Command has authorized the New Busan Defense Protocol. Any human colony that requests it will receive the same level of protection we have established here. Permanent garrisons, orbital defenses, and rapid response fleets. Hyun-woo felt a profound sense of satisfaction. Their sacrifice had not been in vain. Every human family living on distant worlds would benefit from the lessons learned in their struggle. What about the colonists who want to leave? He asked. Some families have requested transfer to safer worlds. They are free to go, of course, Han replied. But I suspect most will stay. This place has become a symbol of human determination. People do not abandon symbols, they cherish them. He was right. Despite offers of resettlement on safer worlds, fewer than 200 colonists had chosen to leave. The rest were determined to rebuild their home into something even better than before. New Busan had become a beacon of hope rather than a reminder of vulnerability. As the meeting concluded, Han made one final announcement. The Earth Senate has voted to establish the New Busan Institute for Colonial Defense. This colony will become the training center where future generations learn how to protect human settlements. Your children will help teach the galaxy that humanity does not abandon its own. The next morning, as Admiral Han prepared to depart for his next inspection tour, The entire colony gathered to see him off. Children who had once hidden in underground tunnels now waved flags and cheered for the man who had saved their world.